Numbers 5. After chapters of counting and assigning people tasks, we're finally back to what God does best, giving everyone a bunch of rules to ignore and making sure women suffer because their husbands had a bad feeling about them. It's the chapter on jealousy. The Lord said to Moses, "Command the Israelites to send away from the camp anyone who has a defiling skin disease or a discharge of any kind, or who is ceremonially unclean because of a dead body. Send away male and female alike. Send them outside the camp so they will not defile their camp where I dwell among them." The Israelites did so. They sent them outside the camp. They did just as the Lord had instructed Moses. If someone has a defiling skin disease, maybe send them to the hospital. Don't just kick them out of camp. Where will they go? God's just telling Moses to let them die in the cold. And come on, discharges? Everyone discharges something. But clearly, God is referring to women having their periods. Why send them away? What did they do that's so wrong, God who supposedly created their bodies? And how many people do we need to kick out because they just hang out next to dead bodies? I didn't realize that was such a problem. You know what? Stop shaming people for their weird hobbies. All you medical students in anatomy labs are so screwed. Honestly, if you're kicking out the people with defiling skin diseases, then they're about to become dead bodies, which means these are not temporary exiles for anyone. Maybe the bigger issue is God wants his camp, which contains his tabernacle, very pure. No one with a disease or cooties or close proximity to a corpse can hang out in God's neighborhood. The Lord said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, any man or woman who wrongs another in any way and so is unfaithful to the Lord is guilty and must confess the sin they have committed. They must make full restitution for the wrong they have done, add a fifth of the value to it, and give it all to the person they have wronged. But if that person has no close relative to whom restitution can be made for the wrong, the restitution belongs to the Lord and must be given to the priest along with the ram with which atonement is made for the wrongdoer. All the sacred contributions the Israelites bring to a priest will belong to him. Sacred things belong to their owners, but what they give to the priest will belong to the priest." Anyone who wrongs someone else? Without defining that, it is extremely vague. Listen up, YouTube viewers. If you've ever left a nasty comment below, you owe me cash, 20% interest, and maybe an animal sacrifice. We all wrong each other all the time. That's what being human is all about. I don't have time to confess all my sins. And this is really just deflection. God has murdered so many people already. Remember the flood? But we don't see God making atonement. Lead by example, God. Pay me full restitution and then some for all the suffering you've caused. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, if a man's wife goes astray and is unfaithful to him so that another man has sexual relations with her, and this is hidden from her husband, and her impurity is undetected since there is no witness against her and she has not been caught in the act, and if feelings of jealousy come over her husband and he suspects his wife and she is impure, or if he is jealous and suspects her even though she is not impure, then he is to take his wife to the priest. He must also take an offering of 1/10 of an ephah of barley flour on her behalf. He must not pour olive oil on it or put incense on it because it is a grain offering for jealousy, a reminder offering to draw attention to wrongdoing." This is just messed up. That section was not about what to do if your wife cheats on you. It's about what to do if you think your wife is cheating on you. Just having a hunch means you have to take her to a priest and offer up some food on her imaginary slutty behalf, because she's gotta be punished for this thing she may not have done, but which you immediately jump to conclusions about. Why are we drawing attention to wrongdoing when there's a giant caveat that says there may have been no wrongdoing? Also, listen, if your spouse is cheating on you, there may be other things going on in your relationship which you need to both address. Deal with that. The Bible doesn't say to work it out or see a counselor. It just says to drag your wife to a priest so everyone can just blame her for something, which is not going to help your relationship and is definitely not going to make her want to sleep with you. I hope you all noticed that this entire section was about a man who suspects his wife of cheating on him, but there's no punishment at all for the man she's supposedly cheating on him with. We've already forgotten about that homewrecker because the Bible only ever cares about punishing women. The priest shall bring her and have her stand before the Lord. Then he shall take some holy water in a clay jar and put some dust from the tabernacle floor into the water. After the priest has had the woman stand before the Lord, he shall loosen her hair and place in her hands the reminder offering, the grain offering for jealousy, while he himself holds the bitter water that brings a curse. Then the priest shall put the woman under oath and say to her, "If no other man has had sexual relations with you, and you have not gone astray and become impure while married to your husband, may this bitter water that brings a curse not harm you. But if you have gone astray while married to your husband, and you have made yourself impure by having sexual relations with a man other than your husband," here the priest is to put the woman under this curse, "may the Lord cause you to become a curse among your people when he makes your womb miscarry and your abdomen swell. May this water that brings a curse enter your body so that your abdomen swells or your womb miscarries." Then the woman is to say, "Amen, so be it." These people are so pro-life, they're cursing a woman who allegedly has an affair by making sure she has a miscarriage. Or, depending on how you define it, an abortion. Why? Because her husband got jealous. So I guess the fetus deserves to die. I don't remember that caveat in all the anti-abortion sermons I've heard, but it exists. Someone should hold up a sign with these verses whenever there's an anti-abortion rally. God's cool with abortion as a way to punish certain women. You know, in some ways, if she did have an affair and she did have a curse put on her, it sounds like she now has a blank slate to cheat again. Like as many times as she wants, because she's not gonna have another dude's baby. Even if she never had an affair, she could totally start now and no one would ever know. These people have not thought through their justice system. And I know it says this only matters if she has cheated, because if she hasn't, then the water isn't cursed. But how are you gonna uncurse the water? The ingredients have already mixed. You know what else they didn't consider? What if she had an affair with another woman? The Bible doesn't even think about that possibility, because lesbians scare God. It's their superpower. The priest is to write these curses on a scroll and then wash them off into the bitter water. He shall make the woman drink the bitter water that brings a curse, and this water that brings a curse and causes bitter suffering will enter her. The priest is to take from her hands the grain offering for jealousy, wave it before the Lord, and bring it to the altar. The priest is then to take a handful of the grain offering as a memorial offering and burn it on the altar. After that, he is to have the woman drink the water. If she has made herself impure and been unfaithful to her husband, this will be the result. When she is made to drink the water that brings a curse and causes bitter suffering, it will enter her. Her abdomen will swell, and her womb will miscarry, and she will become a curse. If, however, the woman has not made herself impure, but is clean, she will be cleared of guilt and will be able to have children. If your marriage was on the rocks already, which is probably why she cheated, forcing your wife to drink bitter water so it messes with her womb, is probably not gonna help. I am not a trained counselor, but I'm gonna go ahead and lock in my wild guess. This punishment is weird though. God's making these women drink this very real bitter water, which could hurt their bodies depending on whether or not they are guilty. But that's not how medicine or poison works. It's either going to help you or hurt you. If it depends on your guilt, which is a feeling, then why doesn't all-knowing God just punish the guilty? Why insert this middle step? God's acting like the bitter water can tell if you're guilty before deciding whether to infect your womb, even though God's supposed to be able to see through your lies. As if the water, not God, is all-knowing. Seriously, we might as well institute a submerge the witch policy. You can't punish them and then figure out if it worked later. And the Bible doesn't point out that these women are totally gonna get publicly shamed for this no matter what happens. She can't just go back home to her normal life. Everyone's gonna treat her as if she has a scarlet letter on her. In some ways, they should have just kept the death penalty for adultery, because a lifetime of being falsely accused is basically another kind of torture. This, then, is the law of jealousy, when a woman goes astray and makes herself impure while married to her husband, or when feelings of jealousy come over a man because he suspects his wife. The priest is to have her stand before the Lord and is to apply this entire law to her. The husband will be innocent of any wrongdoing, but the woman will bear the consequences of her sin. Nice of them to spell it out like that. The husband will be innocent of any wrongdoing, even if he falsely accuses his wife of having an affair and then forces her to drink bitter poison water that could theoretically force her to have an abortion against her will. Shouldn't there be some kind of punishment for any husband who falsely accuses his wife of cheating on him? Can't God say, nope, she's fine, now you have to drink the bitter water and it's gonna shrink your balls? Or something? It's all just very one-sided. There's literally nothing preventing a husband from accusing his wife of adultery at any time. I almost want to go back to just counting people. Who knew we were going from taking a census to punishing women without proof? Then again, I should have seen it coming. This is what the Bible is at its core. Something you can point to defend your misogyny.